Do you ever feel like you just don't have the time for a real arm workout? I get it. Well, today we're going to break down a blueprint from our source material that promises you can build bigger, stronger biceps in just 20 minutes. Seriously. Let's get into it. I mean, it's the classic problem, right? You want those stronger, more defined arms, but your schedule is just packed. The thought of spending a whole hour in the gym, yeah, sometimes that just feels impossible. So what are you supposed to do when time is your biggest opponent? What if I told you the answer is just 20 minutes? Yep, that's it. That's exactly what our source guide is claiming. A full, powerful, and crazy effective biceps workout in less time than it takes to watch an episode of your favorite show. Okay, so this isn't just some random list of exercises thrown together. No way. This is a structured 4-step plan. And today, we're going to do a deep dive into step 1, which is arguably the most important step of the whole thing. It's the move that sets the foundation for all the size, strength, and definition you're looking for. All right, let's get right to it. The foundation. You know, every solid workout plan has that one cornerstone move. And for this 20-minute plan, it all starts with a single, super powerful exercise that really sets the stage for growth. And the source material is pretty clear on this one. It calls the barbell curl, and I'm quoting here, the king of biceps training. And you know what? They're not wrong. There's a good reason for that title. This is your big, heavy hitter. It's the one exercise that lets you pile on the most weight to really overload your biceps, and that's what's going to spark the most growth. Okay, let's talk about your form, because this is where so many people mess up. A shoulder with grip, that's pretty standard. But the real secret, you have got to lock your elbows to your sides. Seriously, think of them as being glued there. This is a non-negotiable, because it makes your biceps do all the work. Now, when you curl up, squeeze hard at the top for a solid second. Really feel that muscle contract. Then, and this is just as important, lower it slowly. Fight the weight on the way down. That slow, negative part, that's where the magic really happens for building strength. Just look at the difference here. This is so critical. On one side, you see the mistake pretty much everyone makes at some point. Swinging the body, using momentum, letting those elbows come forward. That's not a bicep curl anymore. That's your back and shoulders doing the work, which is a complete waste of a rep. But on the other side, that's what we're aiming for. Elbows are pinned, the movement is slow and controlled, and every bit of that tension is laser focused right on the biceps. That is how you make them grow. So how many do you actually do? The plan calls for 4 sets of 12 reps. And there's a reason for that specific number. That range is kind of the sweet spot for what's called hypertrophy, which is really just a fancy word for making your muscles bigger. It's the perfect amount of work to kickstart that growth process, but not so much that you're totally wiped out right at the beginning of the workout. And what about rest? Between each of those 4 sets, you're going to rest for exactly 60 seconds. Not 70, not 45, 60. This isn't just a suggestion, it's a rule in this blueprint. It gives your muscles just enough time to recover so you can hit the next set hard, but it's short enough to keep that intensity up and the blood flowing. So yeah, actually time it. Okay, so you might be thinking, wow, that was a lot of detail for just one exercise. And you're right, but here's why it's so important. The rules we just went over, they're not just for the barbell curl. They're the foundation for the entire 20-minute workout. So take a look at how this all fits together. That first 5 minutes we just mastered, the barbell curl, that's just step 1. It's the first block in a really tight, structured routine. You can see there are 3 more steps that follow to fill out the 20 minutes. And the most important thing to get from this is that everything we just talked about, that strict form, that intensity, it applies to every single one of those next steps too. So if you're going to remember anything from today, let it be these 4 key principles. Number 1, you control the weight, don't let it control you. Number 2, squeeze the muscle at the top of every single rep. 3, form is more important than the amount of weight you're lifting, always. And 4, stick to those rest periods like your life depends on it. I'm telling you, these are the things that make a short workout not just good, but brutally effective. So there you have it. That's the foundation of a super smart, incredibly efficient workout. It just goes to show you, you don't need to spend hours in the gym. All you need is focused intensity and near-perfect execution. We've laid out the core principles right from the source material. The blueprint is right here. The only question left is, what are you going to build with it?
All right, let's do a deep dive into one of the absolute best arm exercises you can do. We're going to break down exactly how to do it, why it's so powerful, and the simple plan you need to get results. Let's get right into it.
You know, it's a goal for so many of us at the gym, right? But the answer? Well, it might be a lot simpler than you think. It really just comes down to hitting the right muscles with the right kind of movement.
And boom, there it is. That's the secret sauce. This is the big promise of the hammer curl. See, it's not just about your biceps. It's about this other key muscle that really creates that full, thick look we're all after. Okay, so to really get why this exercise works so well, we've got to look under the hood a little bit. Let's meet the two main players we're dealing with here.
Now, this is a really important distinction. Everybody knows the bicep, right? That's the mountain peak of your arm. But the hammer curl's secret weapon is the brachialis, a muscle that actually sits right underneath the bicep. Here's why that's so cool. That neutral hammer grip you use, it actually puts the bicep in a slightly weaker position, which forces that powerful brachialis to step up and handle more of the weight.
And that's really the magic of it. You're getting this incredible double whammy from a single move. You're not just building the peak, you're building up the foundation that literally pushes the bicep up from underneath. And that makes your whole upper arm look bigger and more impressive.
All right, so we know the what and the why. Now let's get into the most important part, the how. Because honestly, perfect form is what separates just going through the motions from getting real, solid results.
So the very first thing to lock in is your grip. I want you to think handshake. That's the position. This neutral wrist is what makes it a hammer curl. When you keep your wrists straight and totally firm, you force the right muscles, the biceps and brachialis, to do all the work. It takes all that unnecessary strain off your joints.
And the second piece of the puzzle is all about your speed. Look, anybody can just swing a heavy dumbbell around, but that's just momentum doing the work, not your muscles. Lifting with control. That means you're intentionally squeezing the muscle on the way up and you're actively resisting gravity on the way down. That's where the real growth happens.
So this really boils it all down to two simple rules. If you walk away with nothing else, remember this: neutral wrists and a controlled lift. You master those two things, and I'm telling you, you've mastered the hammer curl. Okay, we've got the anatomy down, we've got the movement down, but how many should you actually be doing? Let's talk about the exact plan.
The game plan here is super simple and crazy effective. It all starts with 3 complete sets.
And for each of those sets, you're going for 10 reps on each arm. That 3x10 structure, it's a classic for a reason. It's the perfect formula for what's called hypertrophy, which is just the fancy science term for muscle growth. It gives you just enough stimulus to grow without overdoing it.
And that's it. That's your mission, plain and simple. 3 sets, 10 reps per arm. It's a clear target you can aim for every single workout.
So let's zoom out for a second and put all these pieces together. We're going to build the complete picture of this fantastic exercise from the ground up.
And there it is, the whole blueprint on one slide. It's so simple. You start with your goal, thicker arms. You get there by targeting the 2 key muscles, the biceps and the brachialis. You do it with perfect form, keeping those wrists neutral and staying in control. And you follow the plan, 3 sets of 10 reps. That's the complete system right there.
When it's all said and done, this is what everything boils down to. You have the knowledge now. You know the what, the muscles, and the how, the plan. But the one ingredient that truly unlocks all the results is control. So the real question isn't about the exercise anymore. It's about you. Do you have the control to make it work? All right, let's talk about building the perfect bicep blueprint. We're going to forget all those complicated routines, you know, the ones with a million different exercises. Instead, we're going to focus on just 2 core movements that are absolutely proven to build size, strength, and that peak everyone's chasing. So let's get right into it.
I mean, of course you do, right? It's one of the most common fitness goals out there, and for good reason. But, you know, the path to get there is usually just way overcomplicated with dozens of different curls. But what if I told you you could get way better, more focused growth with just 2? Well, that's exactly the blueprint we're laying out today.
And here they are, the 2 curl solution, the concentration curl and the incline dumbbell curl. Now, each one of these hits the bicep in a completely different way. One is all about pure isolation and building that dense muscle, and the other, that's for the stretch and building that awesome peak. See, this isn't about doing more work, it's about doing the right work.
Okay, first up, the concentration curl. And the name says it all, right? This is all about pure focus.
The way it's designed makes it pretty much impossible for other muscles like your back or shoulders to jump in and help out. This forces your bicep to handle the entire load all by itself. Honestly, it's the ultimate honesty test for your arms.
The real magic of this move is 100% in the form. Bracing your elbow against your thigh, that's the key. It just locks you in place and stops any cheating. From there, it's all about tempo. A slow, controlled curl up, a really powerful squeeze at the very top, and then an even slower, controlled negative on the way down. Trust me, that slow descent is where so much of the growth is stimulated. And listen, this part is non-negotiable. If you're swinging that weight, your bicep isn't doing the work. Momentum is, plain and simple. By keeping your wrists straight and getting rid of any rocking, you force those bicep fibers to do 100% of the lifting. You want to aim for that 10 to 12 rep range, where the last couple of reps are tough, but your form never ever breaks down. That is the sweet spot for growth. You know, this really gets to the core of that mind-muscle connection. When you do this right, you are going to feel this intense, focused pump directly in the bicep. That's not something to shy away from. That is the goal. That feeling is direct feedback telling you you're hitting the muscle effectively and creating those little micro tears it needs to rebuild bigger and stronger.
Okay, now for our second key movement, the incline dumbbell curl. So if the concentration curl is for building density, think of this one as our tool for building the shape and the height, that classic bicep peak. And the way it works is by putting the muscle in a position that most other curls just completely miss.
The setup here is literally everything. That 45-degree incline is critical. Why? Well, because it lets your arms hang behind your body, which creates this deep, loaded stretch on the bicep before you even start to curl. So as you lift, you got to keep those elbows locked in place and then slowly lower the weight to feel that incredible stretch at the bottom of every single rep.
So why is that stretch so important? Well, it's because it specifically targets the long head of the bicep, and that's the muscle that gives you that impressive peak when you flex. By working it from this fully stretched out position, you're unlocking a growth stimulus that, regular standing curls just can't provide. And just like before, 10 to 12 slow, controlled reps is what you're aiming for.
Now, there is one super common mistake people make with this specific curl. You see it in literally every gym, and it completely cancels out the benefit of using the incline bench in the first place. Any guesses what it might be?
Yep, it's swinging the weights. People just pick a weight that's too heavy. And to get it up, their shoulders roll forward and their back arches right off the bench. They're just using momentum, not muscle. You got to remember, the goal isn't just to get the dumbbell from point A to point B. It's to force your bicep to be the only thing that moves it. Quality over quantity every single time.
Okay, so we have our two key movements. Now let's put them together into a simple, but let's just say a brutally effective bicep finisher.
And here it is, the whole blueprint. It is incredibly simple. You're going to start with 3 sets of concentration curls to really isolate that bicep and build density. Then you'll move straight into 3 sets of incline curls to work the muscle from that stretched position and build up the peak. Seriously, that's all it takes.
But look, a perfect plan is totally worthless if it just stays on paper. The exercises are the tools for sure, but they aren't the real secret to growth. That comes down to one single, simple ingredient.
And this is it, consistency. The best exercises in the world don't mean a thing if you aren't doing them week in and week out. The people who get results, they're the ones who show up and put in the focused work, even on the days they really don't feel like it. Every single rep you do today is a direct investment in your future self.
For building a solid foundation of size, strength, and that awesome peak, it just might be. It's simple, it's direct, and it is incredibly effective. So if this blueprint was helpful for you, make sure you're subscribed for more explainers just like this one. And hey, let me know in the comments which one of these 2 curls is your favorite. Drop bicep fire.
We always hear that growth is a straight line, right? You start at A, you move to B. But what if the best way to get ahead is to actually start at the finish line and work your way backward? That's the powerful, kind of counterintuitive idea we're going to unpack today.
I mean, really think about that for a second. For any big goal in fitness, in your career, whatever, what if that final, toughest step is the thing that holds the secret to the entire journey? That's the core idea we're diving into.
So, what is this final step we're going to deconstruct? Well, it's an exercise that, let's be honest, is a true benchmark of strength for a lot of people. The classic chin up. So let's break down what our source material has to say about it.
Now, this definition sounds simple, but don't let that fool you. The chin up is what's called a compound move, and that's what makes it so incredibly efficient. It's not just an arm exercise. No way. It's your biceps and your back muscles all working together in this one powerful movement. And the instructions, they're super direct. Two things you absolutely have to get right. First, that underhand grip, palms facing you. That's the key to really hitting the biceps. And second, the goal. Get your chin over the bar. We're not talking about half reps here. It's a clear standard you have to meet.
And this is where the intensity kicks in. This isn't about hitting some comfortable number like 8 or 10 reps. Nope. The goal is to push yourself to your absolute limit for 3 whole sets. It's basically a prescription for maximum effort, designed to be that final knockout punch of a workout.
Okay, so we've got this super intense final exercise, but if we stop there, we're totally missing the bigger picture. This one exercise is really just a clue, a piece of a much larger strategy. So let's start unpacking it.
And here's the big reveal. The chin-up, in the context of our source material, isn't just a random exercise you do. It's the conclusion. It's the final piece of a much bigger puzzle.
That's right, this exercise is actually step number 4 in a 4 steps to bigger biceps program. It's the grand finale. It's built on 3 other steps that came before it. And knowing that, well, it changes everything about how we look at it.
So this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If the individual exercises are just the building blocks, what's the glue holding them all together? What's the secret sauce that turns a simple list of exercises into a real recipe for growth?
Well, the secret, it isn't some other complicated exercise or a fancy new technique. It's actually much, much simpler than that. It's a 2-word mantra that is the foundation for the entire plan.
And there it is. This is the engine that drives the whole machine. It's not just about doing chin-ups till you drop. It's about the mindset. Train smart means you have a plan, a structure, like our 4-step program. But stay consistent. That, my friends, is the real magic ingredient.
Let's just put these side by side, because this is so important. On one hand, you've got a smart, structured plan that you follow consistently. On the other, you've got what a lot of people do, just random, super intense workouts with no real strategy. One leads to real, sustainable growth. The other, well, that usually just leads to burnout and hitting a wall.
So, what do we take away from all this, from starting at the finish line? It's really a 2-part lesson that you can apply to, well, just about any goal you can think of.
See, you need both. You absolutely need those concrete, challenging actions, the chin-ups of whatever you're trying to achieve. But those actions are almost useless without the philosophy of smart planning and relentless consistency to back them up. One without the other just falls apart.
And ultimately, it really all boils down to this simple, powerful truth. You could have the most scientifically perfect plan in the world, but if you only follow it for a week, it's worthless. A pretty good plan that you actually stick with day in and day out will beat a perfect plan every single time.
So I'll leave you with this question. Just for a moment, forget about having 1,000 different goals. What is your chin-up? What is that one powerful, specific action that if you just apply a smart and consistent approach to it, will unlock the growth you're really looking for?